Hello again, this is Michael Wojcik with your Our-Town Legislative Rundown. Something really strange happened this last week. We are accustomed to the last minute of the session, some sort of budget deal being struck between the governor, the House, and the Senate. That was actually released this week. That's about 2 months earlier than we tend to typically see it, and it does provide some framework for what spending's going to be in different policy areas throughout the rest of the session. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today. Minnesota is in an outstanding financial position. Our budget surplus is $17.5 billion, but with that comes some hazard. We understand that there are new programs that are going to cost money. We understand that typically the budget in every biennium does increase, a combination of factors, certainly including inflation, which we all understand is a real thing. But in addition to that, also just the fact that Minnesota continues to grow, particularly our cities continue to grow, and that's a good thing compared to the alternative. But as you introduce new spending, you have to figure out what is the long-term sustainability of that funding. And because $12.5 billion of our surplus is one-time money, one of the things that I want to do is pick apart the budget and the new spending and figure out how much of it is one-time and how much of it is ongoing. Because we're going to be fine for this next biennium with the targets that have been set, but we need to ensure that the budget is sustainable beyond the next couple of years as well. The image that you see here is what was released by the governor, the House, and the Senate and their agreement for what the new spending limits are going to be depending on the area that they're in. And you can certainly see there's a lot of one-time items in here. In particular, depending on how the $3 billion of tax cuts are done, that can be one-time or ongoing. You can see now that there's a proposed all-cash bonding bill, which not only is a one-time use of money, but decreases interest expenses and debt expenses going forward. There's also items in here like housing and lead pipe abatement, which can take a large infusion of money, but doesn't necessarily guarantee ongoing funding. In terms of areas that are seeing new ongoing funding, certainly the big winner is probably K-12 schools, who have really faced a lot of suffering from decreased funding over the last maybe 20 years, especially as you compare it to inflation. There seems to be a large infusion of money here, and particularly of interest to places like Rochester is going to be if some of the shortage in special education funding is addressed. As a quick follow-up to last week, I brought up the concern that Senator Carla Nelson raised about the loss of $460 million due to changes in lunch policy. As it turns out, there is a 2-year plug in the bill that passed, and so long as language is updated at the state level, this is something that will not necessarily come to pass. We're not actually forfeiting this money. It just needs to have some language changes in existing state law to make sure this doesn't happen. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. That was written by Dr. Seuss in the book The Lorax, which is one of many books facing new bans around the nation. As many places look to ban books, Governor Walz went in a different direction this week, creating a little library specifically featuring books that are being banned in other places. Thank you for watching your Our-Town Legislative Rundown. We'll catch you next time.